Hello everyone, and welcome to what is probably my most ambitious tutorial video ever. In this video, I'm going to be showing you everything you need to know about configuring Transformers War for Cybertron, Transformers Fall of Cybertron, and Transformers Rise of the Darkspark, but there's not quite as much for that game. So in the previous video I made, I showed you how to get the games running on the Steam Deck. Now, in that video, all I showed you was the very basics on how to set the game up via Lutris. I didn't show you, how to skip the cutscenes on War for Cybertron, how to unlock the FPS on War for Cybertron, how to get the DLC for the games. I didn't show you, like, the nitty-gritty configuration stuff. So in this video, that's what it's going to be going over. I'm going to show you how to do all that stuff, and, yeah. So going through this guide, I'm going to assume that you've watched my previous video, that you have a general idea of how SteamOS works, and that you have the game set up and they both launch. Or all three of them launch if you want to configure Rise of the Darkspark too, but there's not going to be as much for that game. So, yeah, before we get into it, I do want to give a special shout out to Travis1421 and RoboMike27 on Discord. They've been extraordinarily helpful. They've been very, very helpful people. RoboMike made some really great guides on how to set up these games if you have them via Steam. That doesn't really apply here, a lot of what he wrote in those guides, just because they're not, obviously we had the game set up via Lutris, so they don't really work the same way, but that he was very helpful with that. And also Travis, he helped me set up a lot of different things for these games. So before we really get into configuring these games, the one thing I want to mention, you really should join my Discord server, which I'll have linked in the description and in a pinned comment, and you should also really join the Re-Energized server, both on Discord. Now, the Re-Energized server, and also by extension the Warehouse server, which is kind of part of it, it's the same kind of project, that's the multiplayer. So if you don't want to play the multiplayer, the fan-made multiplayer servers for these games, you don't really need to worry about that. But that is what will allow you to play the multiplayer nowadays. Now, they are fan-run, they're community-made servers, so they're not going to be 100% reliable, but that will be necessary if you want to do that. So yeah, go ahead and join those servers, and then come back to the video. So I'm going to get to a kind of table of contents here. So first things first, I'm going to show you how to skip the intro cutscenes for War for Cybertron. Now, if you're not familiar, by default on War for Cybertron, basically there's a lot of intro cutscenes. There's the splash screen and all that stuff, and the intro kind of High Moon logos and the Activision logos and that really long, really cool intro cutscene. But you can't skip it, and when you've seen it 20 times, that can be kind of annoying. So that's the first thing we're going to go over, is how to skip that. We're going to get into the FPS Unlocker for War for Cybertron after that. Then I'm going to show you the multiplayer, the ReShade mod, and then we're going to get into the DLC mod for Fall of Cybertron, and then we're going to get into some kind of miscellaneous mods for both games that are really great. So, okay, so for the first step here, you're going to want to go to my Discord server. You want to go to the Files channel here. And you're going to want to look for this file here. War for Cybertron, no intro fix, -2-0-1- a lot of numbers.zip. So go ahead and download this. Save. Okay. See, it's done. When it says done, you can go and close out of your browser of choice. I like Chrome. That's what I use. Let's go into your file browser here. You want to go to your downloads, and then you're going to want to copy what you just downloaded. So go ahead and copy that, and close out of your files at this point. So then go on your desktop and create a new folder. And you can call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to call it, let's just say, War for Cybertron Intro Skip Mod. Let's just call it that. Make it nice and easy for us. Okay, so go into this new folder you've just created. And it doesn't have to be exact. That's just to help us organize as far as the name for that folder goes. It doesn't have to be exact. So we're going to go paste one file. Now we have that in here. So then what you're going to want to do, once you have it in that new folder you just made, you're going to extract it here. Okay. And now you'll have a new folder just called Transformers War for Cybertron. So in here, we go in here, and you see you just have some movies. Now all these are is just blank movie files with the same name. So what the game is going to do, you're going to replace the things that are already in the game with these. And it's just going to load these instead of loading the actual cutscenes. And it's just going to be a 1 second little skip. It's just going to skip right through and get you to the main cutscene, or to the main menu, excuse me, really, really quickly. So, one thing I should mention about this is that if you install this mod, the cutscenes will be deleted. So you will not be able to watch those cutscenes. All it's going to do is just delete the intro cutscenes. It's not going to delete any of the other cutscenes. So it's just going to delete the Activision little video that plays, and then the High Moon video, and that big, really long intro cutscene. So that's all it's going to delete, but they're gone. So the only way to get those back would be to reinstall the game. So to redo the Lutra setup, and to just redo all that. So it's kind of annoying. I just figured I should mention that just in case, you know, because you cannot watch them with this mod installed. But you want to keep going? Okay. What we're going to want to do, copy this. So copy War for Cybertron that you just extracted, that just has the movies in it. And then you can go to where you have your War for Cybertron install. So I have that just on my desktop. That's where I recommend you have it. Just makes it easy. Go to War for Cybertron, Steam Apps, Common, Transformers War for Cybertron, and then this folder right here. And if you have it, if you have the game from the Internet Archive, you're going to have the Steam Apps and Common. If you don't have the game from the Internet Archive, you're not going to have that. But if you do, just go to this folder here, and this is the actual game if you go in here. So back out of that. So in Common, which you're just going to have if you have the game from the Internet Archive, you're going to go ahead and do that. You're going to do paste one folder, which is the folder you copied earlier. I'm going to move that so I can get into it. So just say write into, and then it's going to say, let's see, the movie files, overwrite, 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 overwrite. Just keep doing this. Okay, now you say overwrite and write into to every single thing. Okay. So now you're good on that front. You can go ahead and close that little pop-up that comes up, and then you can close out of this. And then go back into Lutris. And at this point, the game should just boot up and put you right into the main menu. So we're going to see if this worked. Hopefully it did. I think it should. And yes, it did. Okay, good. So it just puts us right into that main menu right there. Really, really great. Okay. So that is the very basic setup for that part. Now we're going to be moving on to the FPS Unlocker. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the FPS Unlocker. So to do this, what you're going to want to do, go to my Discord server, go back to the Files channel from before, and you're going to want to look for this right here. You're going to want to download this FPS tool for War for Cybertron Linux.bat.exe. You say OK. And you're going to put that in your downloads folder. Okay. Close out of that. I don't know why that opened, but don't worry about that. We don't need that right now. So if that opens for you, just close out of it. Then you're going to come up here to the War for Cybertron FOV and FPS tool.exe. And don't worry, I'm going to explain what these files are. But these are the two things you're going to want to download. See, they have similar names, just don't get them confused. So that's the thing we downloaded a second ago. This is the thing we're downloading now. Okay. Fantastic. That doesn't need to open. I think that's just Wine opening up automatically because they're exe files. You can go ahead and close out of Discord. Okay. Go to your downloads, and what you're going to want to do is find those two things you just downloaded. So this file here, put that on your desktop, and then this file here, put that on your desktop as well. There you go. Okay. So what is a bat file? So basically, this is a bat file that I have converted to an exe. That way, it'll launch with Lutris. And all a bat file is basically just a set of instructions. So it'll say, for example, in this bat file, it'll say launch the game, launch to War for Cybertron.exe, and also launch the FPS tool at the same time. And what that does is it basically has both of those things running in the same prefix, same wine prefix, which means they can both work at the same time. And if that sounds, if that doesn't make any sense to you, then that's okay. It really doesn't have to make a whole lot of sense. If you've watched my previous video and you watched the video that I recommend you watch in that video, that should make sense. But basically, it just lets both things work, and it lets the FPS unlocker interact with the game and actually unlock the FPS. So what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to take this file here, the .bat.exe, and we're going to copy that. And if you want, you can make another folder for these on your desktop, but it doesn't really need it for this one, to be honest. Or actually, it'd be better just to cut that, because we don't need it once we've done it. So once we have that, cut it. War for Cybertron, go into your game files for War for Cybertron. And then what you're going to want to do is Steam Apps Common if you have it from the Internet Archive. Transformers War for Cybertron. And then put this in your binaries folder. Okay, paste one item. Alright, so now that's in your binaries folder, and you'll have your actual game exe and some other stuff in here as well. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take the FPS tool.exe, and you're going to want to also put that in here in your binaries folder. And you're going to want to rename this. And you're just going to want to get rid of any spaces or ampersands. So just get rid of that. Okay. Oh wait, I need to get rid of that space between FPS and tool. Hang on. There we go. Okay, that's what it should look like when you're done. Alright. Go ahead and close out of this. Then you're going to want to go back into Lutris. Then go to War for Cybertron. Right click on this. That's the L2 trigger if you're on the Steam Deck. I'm using an external keyboard and a mouse, so right click on that. Click Configure. Game Options. And then Executable. You're going to want to go in here. Go to your desktop. War for Cybertron. Steam Apps. Common. War for Cybertron. Binaries. And then in here, you're going to choose the .bat.exe. FPS tool for War for Cybertron Linux.bat.exe that we downloaded a second ago. Click OK. And then click Save. So at this point, when you click play, if hopefully I did it right, you should have the FPS tool pop up and quickly just set your frame rate to whatever you want, to 90 FPS. And then when the game launches, the video is going to be 30 FPS, but at this point, the game's FPS will be unlocked to 90 FPS if you're on an OLED Steam Deck, or if you're on an LCD Steam Deck, set it to 60 FPS. Okay, and then when you close the game, just close out of the FPS tool as well. So yeah, there you go. That's how you set up the FPS Unlocker for War for Cybertron on the Steam Deck. Next, we're going to do I believe the multiplayer. I could be wrong. I'm going to have to double check. Alright, so let's get into the install for the War for Cybertron multiplayer now. So step 1, you'll want to come down here to the Discover Store. Click on that, open that up. and then search for Proton Up. Okay, Proton Up QT. You're going to want to click on that, and then click Install. And I already have it installed, so it's just going to say Launch for me, but you'll just see Install. So once you have it installed, click on Launch. Okay, so Install for, choose Lutris Flatpak. So down here, once you have that chosen, click Add Version. Choose WineGE, and then for version, come down here, and you're going to want to select GE Proton 8-7, then click Install. Now I already have it installed, so it's not going to do anything, but for me, you should have for you should have a progress bar that shows up, and it should install, and once it's installed, you can close out of this. So we just installed a version of Proton GE. For some reason, the game only works under that version. I'm not sure why, but it's just that version that it works under. So at this point, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to follow the install instructions from the install guide from the warehouse Discord for War for Cybertron up until it tells you to apply your CD key. Or it might say registry key, I don't remember. But you're going to want to follow it up until it tells you to do that. So once you have that, in your downloads folder, you should have it in your downloads folder. This is the file you should have. Don't worry about this for now. We'll go over that in a second. Here I want to go into Lutris. And if you don't know how to join the warehouse Discord, by the way, you can join it through the Re-Energized Discord, which I'll have linked in the description. So click on War for Cybertron. Click on the little arrow next to the wine glass, and then click on Wine Registry. Oh, okay. So come up here, click on Registry. I'm going to move that so it's easier to see. Registry, click on that. Import Registry File. Click on that. Next, you're going to say Look in Downloads. You're going to have to find your Downloads folder, and then click on that file you have in there, and then click Open. And then it should say it was successfully added to the registry. Click OK. Now you can exit out of this. Now what you're going to want to do is go to that guide again. We're going to go to step 3, replace the cola set. So down here it's gonna say back up the original, so go ahead and back it up. And then here's the file path. You're gonna have an extra Steam apps. But transgame config PC cooked is where the cola set file is. So all you're doing, you're replacing the original file with this file here. So go ahead and download it. And then you'll have that. In your downloads, you'll have the colased.ini. So by default, this is going to be a lowercase c. You're going to have to rename the colased.ini you download, and you're going to have to change that c to a capital C. So go ahead and copy that. You can close out of that. You can close out of Lutris too. So have the thing you downloaded copied, the colased.ini, and change the name. You're going to want to go to your desktop. War for Cybertron, Steam Apps Common. If you have the game from the Internet Archive, you'll have these two folders here. Transformers War for Cybertron, Transgame Config PC Cooked. Here's the colased file the game comes with in there. They're going to say paste one file, and it's going to ask you if you want to overwrite, and just yes, hit overwrite, and okay. And then the last thing we need to do, we need to go back into Lutris. We need to right click, on War for Cybertron. We need to click Configure. We need to go to Runner Options. Now, I already have Lutris GE Proton 8-7 selected. That's what we downloaded a second ago in Proton Up. But you're just going to have to select that. You downloaded it a minute ago. So just select that, Lutris GE Proton 8-7-86_64. Save. And now, when you launch the game, should have your FPS tool pop up from a minute ago when we did that. And here we go. So there are a few things I should mention. Number one, there's two kind of important things. Number one, if you intend to play the multiplayer for War for Cybertron, you need to have the DLC mod installed. If you don't, you and people playing with you can crash. So you'll have to install that, and I'll show you how to do that later in this video. It's not very hard at all. So another thing I should mention is, if you're playing this, go ahead and log in, click accounts down there, and just click sign in. And if it gives you an error about your username, you can change your username in the warehouse server. So another thing I should mention, a lot of times, see, it just loaded in instantly right there. Now we're in the multiplayer, but a lot of times it's going to say servers are unavailable, please try again later, or something like that. And you're just going to have to click on it again and again and again. And eventually, if you signed into your account down here, it should eventually connect. Sometimes, though, it can take up to 3 minutes of just consistently trying and over and over and over and over again for it to finally load into the multiplayer. So what this will allow you to do, it'll allow you to play the campaign co-op, it'll allow you to play multiplayer and escalation. So yeah. Now, again, these are community servers, so you might experience issues. You might experience some glitches, the servers might be down sometimes. It should be relatively reliable, but there are problems you can run into. Okay, so now we're going to move into the multiplayer setup for Fall of Cybertron now. Okay, so now we're going to set up the multiplayer for Fall of Cybertron. So the first thing we're going to need to do, go into the Discover store. You're going to want to search Proton Up. And if you already did this for War for Cybertron, you don't need to do it again. You have the thing installed already. But just go ahead and click on Proton Up. Then click Install. I already have it installed, so it's just going to say Launch for me. Once you have it installed, click Launch. Okay, so up here, choose Lutris Flatpak under Install 4. Then click Add Version. Make sure you have Lutris Flatpak selected. So Compatibility Tool, WineGE version. You're going to want to choose GE Proton 8-7. Then click Install. I already have it installed, so it's not going to do anything. But for you, a progress bar should appear down here, and then just close out a Proton Up when it's installed. Okay, so now you're going to follow the install guide from the warehouse server for Fall of Cybertron up until the point where you put the .reg file in your binaries folder. So at this point, you should have TFC FOC _ PC.reg in your binaries folder. Okay, so you can go ahead and close out of that. At this point, what you want to do, go to part 3 of the guide and download the WHS installer. Okay, once you have that installed, go to your downloads where you have it. Okay, here it is right here, and copy it to your Fall of Cybertron binaries folder. So put it in here where you put your .reg file. Okay, whupdater.exe. So put it in here. You can close out of this. Now go into Lutris. Right click on Fall of Cybertron, click Configure. Click Game Options, and for executable, click the 3 dots, and you're going to go to your desktop, Fall of Cybertron, Steam Apps, Common, Fall of Cybertron, Binaries, and in here, select this, the wh-updater.exe that you just put in there from the guide. Click OK, click Save. Now click Play, and that's going to launch the updater. Update was successful. Great. So now right click on that again, click Configure, go back to Game Options, click the 3 dots again, go to Desktop, Fall of Cybertron, Steam Apps, Common, Fall of Cybertron, Binaries, and in here, reselect the actual game exe. So tfoc.exe, select that, click OK, and then click Save again. Now the final thing we need to do, right click on it again, click Configure, Runner Options, and now we need to choose this. So I already have it selected, but you're going to have to select Lutris GE Proton 8-7 x86_64, which we installed a minute ago. Okay, so have that selected, click Save, and now launch the game. And at this point, everything should work, and you should be able to get into the multiplayer. Okay, so I'm going to try and load into the multiplayer here. It's going to say connecting. It's probably going to take a second to connect. And again, this is kind of the same deal as with War for Cybertron. It will sometimes take a while to connect. But at least for this game, you usually don't have to like sit there and redo it. It just takes a second. But here we are in the multiplayer. And this will allow you to play Escalation and also just the normal multiplayer. So here we go, I can join matchmaking, everything's set up, good to go. So that's that. That's the setup. I would say that's probably a little bit easier than War for Cybertron. Pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, now we're going to move into the multiplayer setup for Rise of the Darkspark. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the multiplayer setup for Rise of the Darkspark. Now, before we get into this, I should mention that Rise of the Darkspark does have crashing issues when you have the multiplayer mod installed. It's not unplayable, but the game will crash occasionally in the multiplayer, and also it will crash occasionally when you're playing the campaign, and from what I've heard, you actually cannot progress past Chapter 2 if you have this installed, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so step number 1, and if you've already done this for the previous 2 games, you don't need to do it again. We're going to go down to the Discover store here. Going to search for Proton Up. Go ahead and search for that. Here it is right here. And you're going to install this. I already have it installed, so it just says launch, but for you it's going to say install. So go ahead and install that and launch it. Up here it says install for. You're going to want to choose Lutris Flatpak. Come down here to add version once you have that selected up there. Click add version. Compatibility tool, choose WineGE. And version, you're going to come down here. And you're going to find 8-7. There it is right there. For some reason, the multiplayer for these games only works under Proton 8-7. Click install. Now, I already have it installed, so it's not going to do anything for me, but for you, you should have a progress bar that appears down here. And once that's installed, you can close out of Proton Up, close out of the Discover store. Now what you're going to want to do is just, luckily the install for Rise of the Darkspark is very simple. It's the exact same as it would be on a Windows PC. All you have to do is just change the Proton version and Lutris for the game. So I'm going to walk you through it though. So you should at this point, if you're following the warehouse guide for Rise of the Darkspark on PC, you should have this file here, Goldberg_patched.zip. So go ahead and cut this from your downloads folder. Minimize that. And go into your Rise of the Darkspark files. Steam apps, common. If you have it from the Internet Archive, you'll have those. Rise of the Darkspark, binaries. Now I already did this before, so it's going to have the files already in there. But paste one file. Paste your Goldberg file. And then extract archive here. Overwrite, 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 overwrite. You can go ahead and delete that. And now you can close out here. And now, copy your colased file if you just continue the guide for Rise of the Darkspark until you get to this part. So download your colased file. And then go back into your game files here for Rise of the Darkspark. Go to Steam Apps, Common, Rise of the Darkspark, Transgame, Config, PC, Cooked. And in here, you're going to paste your colased, get rid of the original one, and rename this, and just make the first C capitalized. That's the only thing you need to do. So just change the first C to be capitalized, make sure it's named exactly that. Okay, one final step, we need to change the wine version for the game. So right click on the game in Lutris, hit configure, go to runner options, and then here where it says wine version, choose Lutris GE Proton 8-7-x86_64. Then click save. Now hit play. So it's going to update your wine configuration here. Just let it do its thing. It might take a minute. There we go. And the game is going to boot up here for us. And here we go. We are in. I'm just going to skip these intro cutscenes. It's going to say it's connecting to the servers. Might take a minute, but it should eventually connect. There you go. Alright, and if we log into the character, or excuse me, into Escalation, we should now be able to play this and be good to go. See, he's going to load. It might take a minute. Communicating with Teletran Mon. And here we go. As you can see, we are in Escalation. Fantastic. Alright, now we're going to move on to the next part of the guide. Okay, so now we are going to install the DLC mod for War for Cybertron. Now this is needed if you intend to play the multiplayer. If you don't have it installed, you and other people will crash if they try and join your lobby. So, it's important to have it installed. So, step number 1, we're going to come down here to the Discover store, and we're going to install Wine. So just search Wine. Here we go, right here. I already have installed. So go ahead and click Install up here. For you, it'll say Install. I already have it, so it's going to say Launch. Now, this isn't something you launch. So if you click Launch and it doesn't do anything, that's normal. So, okay, now that you have that installed, come down here, go to my Discord server, and you're going to see this link right here. I'm going to change the name of that in the actual video, but you'll see a link to the re-energized Discord. So go there, and then download this file here that this individual has given us. So UI party lobby _m.xxx. I think it's about 100 and something gigabytes, or excuse me, megabytes. It's not gigabytes, but it's going to be a little bit of a large file size. So go ahead and close out of your file browser here. And then what you're going to want to do is just have that downloaded. So the next thing you're going to want to do, come back to my Discord. And then come down here. Where do I have it? Let me find it. Here. So click on this Google Drive link. That'll bring you to the DLC Mod Install page. Go ahead and download that. Now that's 4.2 gigabytes, so it probably will take a second to install. So I'm going to end this recording and come back when it's installed. Okay, so now that the file has been downloaded, you can go ahead and close out of your web browser of choice. And come down here to your file manager. And go to your downloads. And go ahead and take the DLC version 7.zip. And go ahead and cut that. And go ahead and make a new folder on your desktop. And you can call it whatever you want, doesn't really matter. But I'm just going to call it DLC Mod War for Cybertron. Okay, go into this new folder here. And paste that new file. Okay. And now you're going to extract this here in your new folder on your desktop. And you should end up with 4 files, not counting the .zip. So you should have 3 .bin files and then 1 exe file. There you go. And at this point, you can delete this if you want. I'm not going to, just to have it, but you can if you want. So these are the only files you need right now. So at this point, what we're going to do, we're going to use Wine, which we had earlier. So you're going to go down here to Open With, and then Wine Windows Program Loader. That's what we installed from the Discover store a minute ago. So go ahead and click that, and it's going to bring you to this page here. So Setup Transformers War for Cybertron DLC Mod. Okay, so click Next. So this is something a little bit tricky. So what you can do, there's 2 ways you can do this. Number 1 is you can use, so if you remember when we set up the multiplayer for War for Cybertron, you had that .reg file. I think it was TFC FWC _.reg, I believe, something like that. That file, if you double click on that, it'll open up as a text document, and in there you'll have a code. So I have just a generic one. Now don't share that with anybody, because that's basically what links your Transformers account. But here I just have one that supposedly should work, but that isn't tied to anybody. So Control C, and you can copy that, or you can use your own. I don't believe it matters. So we're going to do that. Now when you do copy yours, if you decide to do it that way, make sure that you do not have quotation marks. So you just have the code itself. And yes, it did work, it looks like. So you can either copy this one from the video, or you can copy your own code. Just make sure you just have the code itself and no quotation marks. So, okay, this is something pretty important. I recommend that you do read this whole thing here. There's very good information. There's some good fixes and stuff in here. Okay, so once you've read that, and it's going to ask you if you've skipped it, but I do recommend you read it, so say no, you have not skipped it. And now we're going to find our game here. So we're going to go to Z, which is where our files are. We're going to go to Deck, going to go to Desktop, I'm going to go to War for Cybertron, Steam Apps, Common, War for Cybertron. So this is not the actual War for Cybertron, this is the actual War for Cybertron folder. Select that. Okay, and then click Install. Now this is going to take about 3 minutes is usually, I think, how long it takes. But yeah. So this is important because if you don't have this installed, the game will crash. It also lets you do some other cool stuff. I'm not really a whole lot into the modding scene for these games, but this is necessary for a lot of different modding stuff, so it's cool. And it is, of course, necessary if you want to play the multiplayer. So I'm going to end this particular recording, and I'm going to start recording again when this is finished. Okay, so at this point, you're going to have a big list of things that's going to show up here. Once it's done installing, it's going to scroll through them. It's going to be a lot of different files, a lot of different things. And that's all great. And it should all be done, and now you can see just once that stops moving, you can go ahead and click File up in the top left, and then click Exit. So it's going to bring you back to this. And you can choose whether or not to view the README file. I want to read it again, I guess, so I'll just have that checked. And yeah, there you go. So, one final thing that we need to do, if you remember, go back to your downloads, and this file we downloaded a second ago. We're going to take that, we're going to cut it, I'm going to close out of that. Now go to your War for Cybertron game files. You're going to go to Steam Apps, Common, Transformers War for Cybertron. If you have the game from the Internet Archive, you're going to have those two there. Then go to Trans Game, Cooked PC, and you can see you have a lot of different files in here. So just paste that file. It's going to say it's going to overwrite something. Just say OK. And there you go, now you have that installed, and that's going to hopefully prevent the game from crashing. It should. So you can close out of that, go back into Lutris, and run the game. And at this point, you should now have the DLC mod installed. I'll show you how to check that. Okay, so we are now in the game here. Try and get into the multiplayer. Again, sometimes it does take a few tries to do that. I'm going to sign in here first off, though. So sometimes it does take quite a few tries to do it. Go down here to Escalation, try that, and there you go. See, I got in. And then you see at the top there, you're going to have thank you for installing DLC mod V7. So if you see that, you've installed it correctly. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next part of the guide. Okay, so now we are going to install the DLC mod for Fall of Cybertron. Now the DLC mod for Fall of Cybertron is much easier to do. To my understanding, Fall of Cybertron just has a couple single-player DLCs, and I've gone ahead and unlocked them, and then the modified 4K color set that I have for the Fall of Cybertron game. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. So what you're going to want to do, it just unlocks the single-player DLC for Fall of Cybertron. Go to my Discord. Come down here to my server. Then go up here. It's going to be towards the top, I believe. It's one of the first things I uploaded. Going to need Fall of Cybertron 4K color set with DLCs.ini. So download that. Okay. Go ahead and close out of your browser. Go ahead and close out of Discord. Now go into Fall of Cybertron, your game files. Go to your downloads real quick and go ahead and cut this. And go back to Fall of Cybertron. So Steam apps common. You're not going to have these two things if you don't have the game from the Internet Archive. Fall of Cybertron, trans game config PC cooked. And right in here, I'm going to paste that new file. I'm going to delete the old one. You can back that up if you want, but there really isn't any reason to. And you're going to name this new file exactly holised.ini. It has to be named exactly that or it won't work. holised.ini. Okay, so you can close out of your game files then, and go ahead and launch Fall of Cybertron. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go to the campaign here, and you should now see that we have the ability to switch our character here, so we can switch to G1 Optimus, and if we go to Bruticus's level, where is it? There it is. You can switch to G2 Bruticus. This will also unlock some different weapons you can use in the campaign. So there you go, that's how you unlock the DLC for the single player Fall of Cybertron. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to install the ReShade mod for War for Cybertron. Now, if you want to install it for Fall of Cybertron as well, it is the exact same process. It's no different at all, just select just select Fall of Cybertron instead. So, start off with, we're going to install Wine, which, if you've done that for the DLC mod, you'll already have it. You don't need to do it again. So, search Wine in the Discover store. Wine right here, it's going to say install for you. Go ahead and install that. It's not something you launch, so if you click launch and nothing happens, that's normal. So once you have it installed, close out of the Discover store. Now go to my Discord server, go to the files channel here. And you're going to look for this file here, reshade _ setup _ 5.2.1.exe. Go ahead and download this. I already have it downloaded, so I'm going to cancel it, but Just go ahead and download that, and go ahead and close out of Discord. So here we are in the downloads folder. Here's your file here. Go ahead and cut that, and then create a new folder on your desktop. It doesn't matter what you call it. This is just to help us organize. I'm just going to call it ReShade. Okay. Go into your ReShade folder, and then paste one file. And there you go. Now you have your ReShade set up in your ReShade folder on your desktop. Next, you're going to right click on that, then go open with Wine Windows Program Loader, which is what we installed a moment ago. So you're going to see a file pop up there. Then you're going to have this pop up on your screen. So down here, you're going to choose Browse. It's going to be on your Z drive if you have it on your desktop. So War for Cybertron, Steam Apps, Common. War for Cybertron, Binaries, and then choose the game exe right there. TWFC.exe. Then choose that. Then click Next, and then choose DirectX 9. Okay, I don't have a preset. If you have a preset, you can install it, but I don't have one, so I'm just going to click Next. Or actually, I'm just going to skip this part. Excuse me. Click Next. Okay, click Next again. And this mod, it's just going to allow you to customize how the game looks. So you can do anything from just changing the saturation to full-on visual overhauls, however you want to do it. Okay, finish. And that's it. We've installed ReShade. So I'm not going to go into extreme detail on how to do it, but there's a lot of great guides on YouTube if you're looking to configure the game. So I'm going to go into War for Cybertron now. I'm going to launch it. And we should now see, once we load into the game, give it just a moment here, we should now have a banner at the top of the screen thanking us for installing ReShade. So we're good to go. And you can press home to start the tutorial. So I'll go ahead and press home real quick on my keyboard here. And if you're just using the inbuilt controls on the Steam Deck, you can just you can make one of the back buttons be the home button if you'd like. It's in numpad in the controls section. So there you go. And you can customize the game and get everything nice and looking how you want it. Now, I'm not going to really go into that because I'm not super familiar with it, but that's how you get it set up to start. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next thing in the guide. Alright, so moving on, we're going to do some miscellaneous mods for Fall and War for Cybertron now. We're going to start off with a mod for Fall of Cybertron that will fix the Megatron, Laserbeak, and Soundwave interactions in the Megatron Returns chapter. So by default, if you're not aware on the PC version, those interactions are broken and you can't pet Laserbeak or talk to Soundwave and that, which kind of sucks. So we're going to fix that. Luckily, there is a really great mod by Bredden, a really great Transformers, these games YouTuber, and he's made some great mods and stuff. So go to my Discord server, and on the files channel, I have a link to his mod from Nexus Mods. You will need to create a Nexus Mods account, but it's totally free, and Nexus is a really good service, so I recommend you do that. So download that mod. Here it is in my downloads folder here, and I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop, and I'm just going to call it Megatron Fix Fall of Cybertron. It doesn't have to be called that, it's just to help us organize. And now just go ahead and put that file in your new folder that you've made here. So go in here, and then extract this in this new folder that you've made. You're going to have two files here. So go ahead and take these two files and copy them. And now what you're going to want to do, so go into your Fall of Cybertron game here. Go into, let me go back so I can show you. So Steam Apps, Common, and you're just going to have those two folders if you have the game from the Internet Archive. Transformers Fall of Cybertron. You're going to go to trans game, cooked PC, and in here you're going to have a bunch of different XXX files. So you're going to create a new folder in here, and you're going to call it mods. And in that mods folder, you're just going to paste those two files, and there you go. That is how you install that. So I'm going to go into the game now, and those interactions should now be fixed. So I'm going to play up until the part where we talk to Laserbeak and Soundwave, and hopefully we're going to be good to go there. Should work perfectly fine now. Okay. Oh, well, actually, I don't have that part of the campaign unlocked, but they should work at this point. So, yeah, Megatron returns. And I believe, I think the final countdown also has that. So, yeah, that's how you fix that. Alright, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and install the reversed escalation maps for War for Cybertron. So, what this mod does is it adds some different variants of the pre-existing escalation maps. So, for example, you can play as Megatron on an Autobot map, or, you can play as Optimus on a Decepticon map. So, it's cool. It also adds some new enemies. It's a really cool game mode. Or not a game mode, but it's a cool addition to the escalation mode. So all credit goes to Spooky480 on Nexus Mods for this. Spooky is spelled with 2 zeros. They're the one who made this mod, and it's a really great mod. So yeah, go definitely like that mod and tell them thanks for that. So to install this, there's a couple things I should mention. Number one, you do need version 7 of the DLC mod for War for Cybertron installed to do this. If you've been following this guide so far, you already have that done. And also, if you would like to play this mod with your friends, they will need the mod installed as well. And also, one final thing. Every time you complete a match in this, you're going to have to reload the lobby, because it won't work right if you don't reload it with this mod installed. So, okay, to start off, you're going to want to go to my Discord, go to the Files section, and go to the reverse escalation maps on Nexus Mods. Again, you will need a Nexus account, but it's totally free to make one. So go ahead and download that, and make sure you like the mod and say thanks. So once you have that downloaded, go to your downloads. There it is right there. So go ahead and create a new folder on your desktop, and just call it... let's think. Let's just do reversed maps. That's not how you spell maps. Maps mod War for Cybertron. Okay. And then just go ahead and put the .rar file in there. Okay, move your folder over there, I guess. So go in here, where you've now put your new file in your new folder, and go ahead and extract that here. So extract it in there, and it'll take a second. Almost done. There we go. Okay, and now you have your DLC folder. So you have reversed maps. So simply just copy this. Go into your War for Cybertron files. Go to Steam Apps Common. You're not going to have these two folders if you have the game from any other location aside from the Internet Archive, I don't believe. And then go into this folder here. And then just paste one folder. Say write into. And there you go. So now you have the mod installed. So I'm going to launch the game here and show you that mod now. Quite a cool mod. I like it a lot. And if you play, if you plan on playing Escalation, it's a good way to mix things up. I'm going to load into the game here. I'm going to sign into my account. There we go. Logged in. Probably going to take a few tries to get in. Should work eventually. There you go. Alright, so I'm going to go host a game, create game, friends only. And let's see, so I believe I haven't played with this a whole lot. I think that's, so just, it basically just adds reversed maps. So you can play as Autobots on Decepticon maps, and you can play as, so I believe this is one actually. Start game, select character. I think this is one. So yeah, it just lets you play as different characters on different maps, and it'll add different enemies in these maps as well. It's a pretty good mod. I like it a lot, and it just kind of mixes up the multiplayer a little bit, or the escalation mode rather. So yeah, and if you want to play this with your friends, they do have to have the mod installed as well, or it won't work. So there we go. I don't know why the textures are bugging out. But anyway, that's how you install that mod. So yeah, there you go. You're good to go. All right, now we're going to I'm gonna wrap up the video with some closing thoughts, and yeah, that's about it. Alright, so for some closing thoughts here, I just want to say thank you for watching, for sure. If this was helpful, I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. That's fantastic, that helps me out a lot. I tried to put everything you could need really into this guide for these games, but if I missed something or there's something you'd like to add to it, do let me know in the comments or on Discord. On Discord, my username is Mr. House. So if you have any questions, be sure to ask just in the questions channel on my Discord, or just DM me, however you want to do it, doesn't matter. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks to everybody who helped me kind of make this guide. I said thanks to them in the beginning, and the mod authors. So yeah, that's about it. I hope this has been helpful. If it has been, be sure to let me know, and if it hasn't been, be sure to let me know as well, and I'll try and help you out. So, yeah, thanks.